The most dangerous person on that plantation was the one no one noticed. She cleaned their rooms, served their food, stood silently while they spoke, and they said everything in front of her. Because to them, she wasn't even a person. She was invisible. And invisible people hear everything. But she hadn't always been invisible. Not at the beginning. Before Red Hollow, before the fields, before the silence, Eliza Crow had a name that meant something. A life that belonged to her. A future that wasn't controlled by anyone else. She was born free, raised in a small wooden house near the river. Her father worked with his hands, her mother with her mind. And both of them believed in one thing, that knowledge mattered. Everything can be taken from you, her mother used to say. Except what you learn. Eliza remembered that, even when everything else disappeared. It happened fast. Too fast to understand. Too fast to stop. Men arrived with papers, voices raised, claims made. Words like ownership, words like debt, words like law. Words that didn't care about truth, only power. Her father fought. Of course he did. Any man would. And for that, he was punished. Not quietly, not privately, but in a way that made sure everyone saw. Eliza didn't remember the exact moment it ended. Only the feeling of something breaking. Not outside. Inside. Her mother was taken first, sold before the sun had set. Gone before goodbye meant anything. Eliza never saw her again. She was taken next. Not asked, not told. Just moved. From a life she understood to one she didn't. Red Hollow Estate. A place built on silence, on control, on breaking things that resisted. Her first year there was not about work. It was about erasing. Every question she asked was answered with pain. Every mistake made an example. Every sign of intelligence was treated like defiance. They weren't trying to teach her anything. They were trying to remove something. And slowly, it worked. Not because she believed them, not because she accepted it, but because she understood something important. Fighting them only gave them what they wanted. Resistance was visible. Things get destroyed. So she changed. Not who she was, but how she showed it. She stopped asking questions, stopped looking people in the eye, stopped reacting. She became slower, simpler, smaller. She let them believe that they had succeeded, that she was broken, that she didn't think anymore. And that was the moment everything changed. Because once they believed that, they stopped watching her. They spoke freely, acted openly, stopped hiding anything. She cleaned the study, and they didn't notice her reading the papers. She served meals, and they didn't notice her listening. She stood in the room, and they forgot she was there. Invisible, completely. And in that invisibility, she found something they never expected. Power. Not the kind they understood. Not control. Not force. Not ownership. Something quieter. Something patient. Something that waited. Information. Names. Schedules. Secrets. Mistakes. Weaknesses. All of it, right in front of her. And no one realized she was collecting it. Not yet. Not then. But she was. Every day. Every moment. Because Eliza Crow wasn't broken. She was building something. And when it was ready, when the time came, they wouldn't see it coming. Not from her. Not from someone they had already decided. Didn't matter. At first, it didn't look like anything. Just small pieces. Scattered. A name mentioned once. A shipment delayed. A complaint whispered under breath. Things no one paid attention to. Because alone, they meant nothing. But Eliza didn't see them alone. She saw patterns. Connections. She remembered everything. Not perfectly. Not all at once. But enough. Enough to begin. The study was the first place she learned to listen properly. Not just to words, to what people avoided saying. Barrett Hale spoke often. About money. About land. About problems that needed solving. He spoke like no one else was in the room. Because to him, there wasn't. Eliza moved quietly behind him. Dusting. Organizing. Watching without appearing to. Granger's shipment is late again, Hale said one afternoon. Irritation in his voice. Third time this month. Another man responded. Lower voice. Careful. River's been watched more closely. A pause. Short. Important. By who? Doesn't matter. We move it at night. That was it. Just a sentence. But Eliza held on to it. Night. River. Shipment. She didn't write it down. Didn't need to. She placed it somewhere else. In a structure she was building inside her mind. Every piece had a place. Every detail. A connection waiting to be made. Later that evening, she tested something. Not big. Not obvious. Small. She moved the crate. Just slightly. Out of line. Barely noticeable. But enough. The next morning, she watched. Quiet. Still. Invisible. A supervisor noticed it. Stopped. Adjusted it. Looked around briefly. Confused. But not suspicious. That mattered. More than anything else. Because it told her something. How closely they watched. How quickly they reacted. What they ignored. It wasn't just information anymore. It was understanding. And understanding was control. Not over people. Not yet. Over outcomes. That was the difference. She wasn't trying to fight them. Not directly. Not openly. She was learning how to move around them. Micah noticed first. Of course he did. Men like him always did. Older. Quiet. Watching more than speaking. He had been there longer than most. Seen more than he said. Survived more than anyone asked. You're thinking too much, he said one night. Not accusing. Not warning. Observing. Eliza didn't look up. Didn't respond right away. Because that was the rule. But Micah didn't move, didn't leave, just waited. You don't hide it as well as you think, he added. Still calm, still quiet. That was dangerous. More dangerous than anything else so far. Because if he saw it, others could. Eliza lifted her eyes slowly, measured, careful. Not too sharp, not too slow. I don't know what you mean. Her voice flat, empty. Micah studied her. Longer than necessary. Long enough to matter. Then, he nodded. Once. Small. Good, he said. Keep it that way. And just like that, he walked away, leaving her with it. With the warning. Because that's what it was. Not exposure. Not threat. Recognition. And recognition meant she wasn't alone. Lila was different. Younger. Faster. Less careful. She asked questions. Too many. Too openly. Why do you always listen like that? She whispered once. Curious. Not suspicious. Just unaware. Eliza didn't answer. Didn't need to. Because answers created risk. Instead, she watched. Listened. Learned who could be trusted. And who couldn't. Because this wasn't just about information anymore. It was about people. And people were unpredictable. That made them useful. Or dangerous. Sometimes both. By the end of the week, she had enough to see the shape of something. Not fully. Not clearly. But enough. Shipments moved at night. Routes changed without warning. Certain names appeared too often. And others never appeared at all. That absence meant something. Everything did. If you knew how to look. Eliza did. Now. More than before. But knowing was only the first step. Using it was something else entirely. And that was where things became dangerous. Knowing was one thing. Using it was something else. Because once you act, you leave a trace. And traces can be followed. Eliza understood that. That's why she waited. Not for the perfect moment. For the right one. It came 3 nights later. Quiet. Ordinary. Like everything else. A shipment was scheduled. Late. After dark. Just like before. River route. Same men. Same pattern. No change. That was the mistake. Not theirs. Hers to use. Eliza moved through the storage area slowly. Carrying nothing. Looking like she belonged. Because she did. In the way they understood. Invisible. She stopped near the crates. Just for a moment. Just long enough. One shift. Small. Precise. Odd, not nothing. Then she walked away. No rush. No hesitation. No reason to remember her. That was the key. Always. The delay showed up at the river. Not immediately. Not obviously. But enough. Enough to matter. Enough to change timing. And timing was everything. By the time they realized something was off, it was too late. The route had been seen. Not by chance. Not by accident. By people who were already watching. The shipment didn't disappear. Didn't fail. But it didn't go unnoticed either. And that was the first crack. Back at Red Hollow, The reaction was quiet, controlled, but real. Barrett Hale wasn't angry. Not outwardly. Men like him rarely were. They didn't need to be. They adjusted. Something changed, he said. Not a question. A statement. The men around him shifted. Uneasy. Careful. Find it. That was enough. It always was. Eliza heard it. Of course she did. She was there. Quiet. Invisible. Listening. But this time, something was different. The room felt sharper. More aware. More dangerous. Because now, they were looking. Not at her. Not yet. But around. And that was enough to matter. Micah found her later. Not in the open. Not where others could hear. You moved something, he said. No accusation. No surprise. Just truth. Didn't confirm. Didn't deny. Micah nodded slowly, like that was answer enough. That wasn't small, he added. They'll notice. They already have. Her voice quiet, controlled. Another pause, longer this time, heavier. You're not just watching anymore, Micah said. You're changing things. That was the truth. Clear, unavoidable. No way to step back from it. Eliza met his eyes, just for a second. Enough to show it. I was always going to, she said. Not loud, not dramatic, certain. Micah exhaled slowly. Not approval, not fear. Understanding. Then you better be ready, he said. Because once they start looking, they don't stop. Silence followed. Real this time. Heavy. Because this wasn't theory anymore. Not planning. Not waiting. This was action. And action has consequences. That night, Eliza sat alone. Not thinking about what she had done. Thinking about what came next. Because one move was never enough. It had to become something bigger. Connected. Coordinated. Not random. Not reactive. Intentional. That was the difference between disruption and control. And Eliza Crow was no longer just watching the system. She was learning how to break it. One move changes nothing. Not really. Not in a place built to absorb it, but patterns. Patterns change everything. Eliza understood that now, clearly, completely. This couldn't stay small. It couldn't stay isolated. It had to spread. Carefully. Quietly. Without ever looking like it was happening. That was the challenge. Not action. Coordination. Micah was the first piece. Solid. Reliable. Someone who didn't need to be told twice. He didn't ask questions. Didn't push. He understood the risk. Which meant he understood the value. Lila was different. Faster. More visible. Harder to control. That made her dangerous, but also useful. You don't tell her everything, Micah said one night. Low. Careful. She talks too much. Eliza didn't disagree. Didn't need to. She had already seen it. You tell her enough, she said. Just enough to move. That was the structure. Not trust. Not loyalty. Function. Everyone had a role. Small, specific, limited. No one saw the whole picture. No one except her. That was the only way it worked. That was the only way it stayed hidden. The next move was bigger. Not obvious, not loud, but coordinated. A delay here, a misdirection there, a message passed at the wrong time. Individually, nothing. Together, something else. The system didn't break. Not yet. But it started to slip. Schedules stopped aligning. Orders arrived late. Movements became uncertain. Small cracks, everywhere. And cracks spread. Barrett Hale noticed. Of course he did. Men like him always did. But this time, he didn't speak openly. He watched. Closer. Longer. More carefully. That was worse. Much worse. Because now, it wasn't about fixing a problem. It was about finding it. And finding it meant finding someone. Eliza felt it immediately. Not from words. From absence. Conversations shortened. Voices lowered. Rooms cleared faster. They weren't careless anymore. They were cautious. And that changed everything. Because caution makes patterns harder to see. It also makes mistakes easier to notice. That's when she pulled back. Not stopping. Adjusting. Less movement. Less interference. More observation. That was the difference. Between impulse and control. Micah saw it. Slowing down, he said. Changing shape, she replied. He nodded. Once. Enough. But not everyone adjusted. Lila didn't. She moved too quickly. Spoke too freely. Carried something she shouldn't have. Eliza saw it too late. Not the action. The attention. A man had noticed her. Not fully, not clearly. But enough. That was all it took. Just enough. That night, Eliza moved differently. Faster, more precise. Less careful than usual. Because this time, it wasn't about building. It was about protecting it. She found Lila near the edge of the quarters. Talking. Too openly. Stop, Eliza said. Low, sharp. Different from before. Lila froze. Not used to that tone. Not from her. You're being watched, Eliza said. No one is watching me. They are. Now. Already. Silence. Heavy. Immediate. Because this wasn't a guess. It was fact. Lila's expression shifted. From confusion to fear. What do we do? That word, we. That was new. And it mattered. Eliza didn't hesitate. Nothing. Lila blinked. Confused. Uncertain. We stop moving, Eliza said. We become invisible again. Another pause. Long. Hard. Because stopping felt like losing. But it wasn't. It was survival. And survival was how this continued. That night, no one moved. No signals. No changes. No mistakes. And the next day, nothing happened. No confrontation. No punishment. No exposure. But that didn't mean safety. It meant something else. They were close. Too close. Close enough to feel. And once you get that close, there's no going back. Because now, it wasn't just about what she knew. or what she could do. It was about how far this had already gone. Too far to stop. Too far to undo. Too far to survive unchanged. And Eliza Crow knew, whatever came next, it would not be small. It didn't happen all at once. It never does. Not something like this. Because real change doesn't arrive like a storm. It builds, quietly, patiently, until the moment it can't be stopped. Eliza had been building it for months, piece by piece, step by step. Not a plan written down, not something anyone could see. Something else. A system. Inside the system. By the time it was ready, no one realized it already existed. The signal wasn't spoken. It wasn't written. It didn't need to be. It moved the same way everything else had. Quiet. Invisible. Unnoticed. A door left slightly open. A delay that shouldn't have happened. A message carried at the wrong time. Individually, nothing. Together, everything. That night, Red Hollow didn't fall apart. It slipped. Orders stopped connecting. Men moved to the wrong places. Supplies didn't arrive when they should. Confusion spread. Not fast. Not loud. But deep. Because for the first time, the system wasn't working the way it was supposed to. Barrett Hale felt it immediately. Of course he did. Men like him always feel it. But this time, he couldn't see it. No broken rule. No clear mistake. No single point to fix. That was the difference. This wasn't damage. It was design. Find it, he said. Again. But this time, it didn't mean the same thing. Because there was nothing to find. Not in one place. Not in one person. It was everywhere. And nowhere. That was how it survived. That was how it worked. Eliza didn't move that night. Didn't step out of place. Didn't break pattern. She did exactly what she had always done. Nothing. And that was the most dangerous part. Because no one was looking at her. No one ever had. Micah saw it differently. He always did. He watched the movement, the shifts, the way things didn't connect anymore. And he understood. Not everything, but enough. You started something, he said quietly. Not in fear. Not in doubt. Recognition. Eliza didn't answer. Didn't confirm it. She didn't need to. Because the result was already there. And results don't need explanation. Lila felt it too. Faster, more emotional. They don't know what's happening, she whispered. Half fear, half something else. Hope. That word hadn't existed here before. Not like this. Not real, not possible. Now, it was. Not because everything changed. Not yet, but because something had. The idea, the understanding, that the system wasn't untouchable. That it could be moved, shifted, broken. And once people see that, they don't forget it. Barrett Hale stood in the center of it all, watching, trying to hold something that no longer behaved the same way. And for the first time, he wasn't in control. Not fully. Not completely. Not the way he had always been. That was the beginning, not the end. Because systems like that don't collapse overnight. They weaken, gradually. From the inside. Eliza stood at the edge of it. Not leading, not following. Watching. The same way she always had. Invisible, but not powerless. Because she understood something now, something they never would. Power isn't what people think it is. It's not loud, not visible. It doesn't demand attention. It avoids it. And once it learns to move unseen, it becomes impossible to stop. That's what she had built. Not a moment, not a rebellion. Something else. A shift. And shifts like that don't disappear. They spread.